Well, as always, I don't like to talk about politics. I'm not going anywhere near elections or conversations about who should have won, what they should have done. Instead, I'm going to talk about leadership communication and the battle that you are having in your workplace and how you can guarantee to get the result that you want. Big deep breath. It all gets better from this point on. This is Speak on Stage. Welcome to Speak on Stage with Dave Crane, the podcast where we unpack the art and science of public speaking to help you command the stage with confidence and authority. I'm your host, Dave Crane, and as a seasoned speaker, coach, and entertainer, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals like you to unlock their true potential on stage all around the world. Each week, we'll bring you candid conversations with industry experts, successful speakers, and thought leaders, delving into proven strategies, practical tips, and personal anecdotes to empower you to become a captivating communicator. So whether you're a seasoned pro looking to refine your skills, or a beginner taking your first steps onto the stage, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering the craft of public speaking. So grab your notepad, open your mind, and get ready to amplify your impact as we embark on this journey together. Welcome to Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. Together, let's jump and grow wings on the way down. So, as I did mention, we're not going to go anywhere near those conversations remotely related to politics for the reasons that I think we're all exhausted. Half the people are going, yeah, hey, half the people are going, oh my goodness, and I don't think there's an easy way around it apart from just ignore it and move forward. I'm always a real believer in fighting the battles that you know that you can win, as opposed to things that might be above your head, above your pay grade, or maybe even have nothing to do with you. But you get involved, just like your football team or your rugby team or cricket, wherever you're into, because you know that everyone else is. But sometimes the best way to insulate yourself from anything that's coming on in the future is just to think about the stuff that really matters to you, the people that really matter to you, and the impact that you can have based on what you can actually do. So today is about leadership communication. It's really about giving you the tools and the tricks to be able to move forward and also, as I mentioned earlier, only fight the battles that you know that you can win as opposed to everyone else is going on about other stuff. What I will say is this, and I've mentioned this before, I think it's a really important point to make. When we talk about hero's journey, we'll talk about this in more depth, but let's just go to this one. This is a happiness roadmap. And as you look at this, you can see that there's 5 different ways of looking at life. You can get life to make you enlightened, you feel amazing, or happy, which is slightly below it, or contented, which is, it's all right, or you can be really sad and angry. Now, here's the way that I see this. I think the best way you can be is have contented as your default setting. What does that mean, Dave? Well, that means that you never get any worse than being contented. You see the wave that goes like that. If you aim for happiness all the time, sometimes you're going to be sad because you have to be sad to know what happiness is. And sometimes you're going to be sad and you can't shake it. Sometimes you're going to be angry and you can't shake it. But what if you weren't looking to flip it into happy, which is a really big step to take? What if you were just going, you know what, let's go back to contented? So you've had a difficult time with the elections or whatever has happened, you didn't get the pay rise you wanted, or you had an argument with your partner, or whatever it would be. It could be something that's really made you sad or made you angry. And then you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. I'm going to get some biscuits that I haven't eaten for a while. They have not gone off, but they're still delicious. Chocolates or jammy dodgers or whatever it is that makes you feel really excited. If you're a biscuit person, if you're not a biscuit person, you're going, bleh, it's not going to work for me, Dave. But whatever you do, you got your cup of tea, you got your biscuits, you got your phone, you decide I'm not going to scroll through social because then I'm going to get myself all angsty again and maybe depressed when people are talking about that subject. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on TV and find a show that I've always wanted to watch. I didn't get around to watching. I'm going to see how it is. So you click it on and you go through and you scroll through and you find a show that you really fancy watching and say, right, cup of tea, biscuits, put my feet up, let's do this. And so what you end up with is contented as a default setting. So you're always feeling contented all the time. You're having a bad day, you can always go back to contented. That's a cup of tea, biscuits, and telly. As opposed to what most people do, which is get really stressed because you're not getting exactly what we want out of life. Now, the reason that this is so important is because if you can be contented as a default setting for almost, or if not, all your life, then you know that you can have a good life. But if you're chasing happiness, that could involve a ton of different things that maybe are really difficult to get your head around. Then you could be chasing money or love or relationships or travel, whatever your bucket list is. If you're not getting them, you're getting upset as well. Now, I'm not saying you don't need momentum and motivation. I'm just talking about getting yourself through the day. And sometimes just being content is the way to do it. All right, preaching session over. Let's get back to what the subject was really today about leadership communication skills. So, with that, at this point in time, I'm doing a lot of traveling around. I'm working with big teams and helping them to be able to communicate more effectively, especially with management. But sometimes you've got to work with staff as well, because if they want to rise their game, or they want to be noticed and promoted, or they want to communicate more effectively with clients, with staff, with their employees, or maybe even with their spouses or their family, then the ability to understand what's going on is really, really vital for all this to happen. So the key to it is to learn to speak business personal. What's business personal? Well, it's really about the ability to communicate with somebody as though they're your friend, but they're not really your friend. So you kind of like get close, but you know that there's a line. Does that make sense? So how are you? I'm good. How are you? Good. You don't go then. So tell me what happens over the weekend. You just say, oh, that's good to know. Do you know what I mean? There's a line. So learn to speak business personal and keep that as much as you can into your work position. It means that you're not being extra formal. And when you mean extra formal, sometimes it means that people are going, oh, goodness me, just calm down, calm down. You know, people that used to work with, but often teachers at school, they weren't honest human beings. I'm not knocking teachers here. Well, I'm a little bit. But it was like they were acting like judges as opposed to people who are there to mentor and help and coach you or teach you. And so sometimes it's easy to fall back into that. What I'm talking about is business personal. So when you got that correct, then it means it's a lot easier to get what you want out of those relationships with people. It means that when you do a tough job, you do it with warmth and empathy. You understand what's going on. You feel for people and you say, you know what, I understand this is challenging. And I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that as we do this, you feel a lot more comfortable in the stuff that we're doing. Does that make sense? And so that's pretty much what we aim for doing. And that's what the plan is. So when you're doing that and you're working with getting the warmth and empathy, it means your meetings convert. You're not doing this anymore. You're not going out there and talking to people and they're thinking, oh my goodness, this is such hard work to be able to communicate with you. You're really difficult to talk to, and I really can't be bothered. Just like they're at school, instead of feeling differently, instead of really excited about the fact that there's loads of stuff going on that makes sense because you're asking the right questions. And what are the questions? Well, this is a question you always need to ask. Answers on a postcard. And by the way, if you're watching this live, then feel free to put comments in. If I see them in time, I'll put them on the screen or I'll answer you. If I don't see them in time, I'll go back over the comments later on and I'll add stuff on the replays because things do replay just in case it's bedtime for you and you missed a show, or it's early morning and you're going to school or whatever it is. Anyway. So the question you got to ask is what's in it for them. Now, I did promise not to go back to the elections, but here's the thing. Who out of the elections in your country or in the American elections was asking the questions of what does my audience want to hear? I'm not saying what they deliver, that's a different question. What does my audience want? What's in it for them? What can I say or promise that's going to get them all excited? Because that's truly what they're after. Once you've worked that out, it's a lot easier to get the impact that you really want. So start off with that question. So let's then dig deeper into this whole thing. Why is it hard to keep your staff happy and motivated? I'm going to give you a few little clues as to why that might be the case. So look at this then. First of all, you're not recognizing who they are. You're ignoring the importance of who they are and what they contribute. Really, really difficult to sometimes get right, but if we do get it right, then we know, oh, they do notice me, it matters. And also, when they do stuff and you turn around and say, that was really good, you don't need to do a huge amount, just let them know that they are appreciated and you do feel that they're a very valued person. Next up is this. And a lot of companies have this. I've been talking to quite a few actually about this challenge. There's no natural growth path. If you work really hard and do all the stuff that you've been doing all this time, but you don't get promotion, don't even get any more money, a lot of the old school bosses treat it like, yeah, well, you got a job, so you shouldn't really complain too much. Yeah, I know I've got a job, but I want more. I want to know what I'm getting out of my life. I'm not getting any younger. I want to know that I'm doing the right thing by spending time with you in your company and growing your business and growing your own success. And so sometimes you need to know there is a career path attached to it. Next up is this overemphasis on metrics. What does that mean? Well, spending far too much time going over the nuts and bolts of the business without actually talking about what it is that they are doing really well. So therefore, you're talking about the features and not the benefits. I know technically you need to be able to talk about the actual features for the staff to get it right, but sometimes it distances some people. For me as the creative, I don't want to spend too long working on the actual breakdown of everything. I want to know where I'm going, where I'm heading, what it's leading towards, and am I keeping everybody happy? Or at least challenged. That's the kind of thing that I'm motivated by. Everyone's got different stuff. You've got to work out what they are with the individual people. So then we got this transactional leadership. Focusing on the tasks is what's done by far too many people. Focus on the relationships that you're creating with the people by doing the tasks. The tasks are functional. And one of the things about tasks as well is far too often you'll find in the future AI will take up tasks and do them bigger and better. I mean, I haven't really used AI with this, but you may have noticed that the broadcast is slightly different, maybe a little bit better quality. Why is that? Because I've just upgraded my computer system and using AI to be able to make things better. Does that make a big difference? Maybe a little bit in the fact that it makes my job easier, but to the overall impact, it's about the relationship I create with you. That's what you're interested in. That's what's making you think, Dave, right, okay, yeah, I understand this. So being there and making those things makes a difference. All right, next up is this. Poor communication skills. If you do not have strong communication skills, the staff will always feel unheard. And if they're unheard, it means they're unwanted. And if they're unwanted, why are they there? I mentioned earlier about the fact that in the old days, you'd say, well, you got a job, haven't you? Most people will take a job than not have a job. But once they don't feel valued, once they feel like they're talking to themselves and nobody's really interested in what they've got to say, what happens is they become emotionally disengaged, which means they go to work and they get paid, but they couldn't care less what happens. And it's really hard to get them out of that doldrums, those doldrums, because when you turn around and say to them, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Do you understand what I was talking to you about? Yeah, I understand. You're not saying, are you happy? Are you enthralled? Are you going to love it? Because that's not the conversation you created, not create a relationship with them. If you did, they'd turn around and say, well, I don't love it. I think it's rubbish. It's a waste of my time. But you didn't ask that question. That's why it's really important that we do feel heard. All right, number 6 is this. And this is a big challenge, cultural disconnect. When you've got a diverse workforce, which, to be honest with you, is something you really want to encourage. And more people from different backgrounds, different experiences, different countries, different agendas helps to make you run an international organization that can do more business internationally because you understand what people will think and say outside of your own sphere of influence. But the more people you bring in, you're going to get challenges as not everybody gets on. So you have to somehow make sure that you babysit it like a parent to make sure that they do get on. Often people are really quiet and just go on holiday in their heads and turn up, get paid, go home, don't care. Well, they actually care at work. You can't notice it quite so easily because they keep it themselves. So you've got to work out how to get that diversity buzzing so everyone feels valued and they really do want to be part of your experiment of an incredible company. Next is this work-life imbalance. Working too hard. It's like the weekends. I remember when I never used to take weekends off and I thought it was really clever to keep working for the weekend. Look at all the advantage I'm having over everybody else. And it's really interesting when you see some of the most incredible achievers in our lifetime. For instance, I was reading an article today about Denzel Washington. I was talking about a young actor that he was working with. And he said in the very early days of that actor's career, he said, Stay in your lane. Don't look at anybody else's lane. Don't compare yourself to what anybody else is doing, because they've got their own journey and their own lane. For you, it's important to work out what yours is. Just focus on that, and you'll be happy, and you feel you've done fine all the time. It's a very important thing to think about. If you spend your entire time watching everybody else and getting jealous of what they have and maybe you don't have, you're going to spend your time thinking, I'm no good. Of course you are good, but you just got to sometimes let them do their thing. You never know what they're going to have to deal with later on down the line, and you do your thing because you are in control of what happens to you. And sometimes that's a real blessing in disguise. All right, next up is this. So we've got work-life imbalance, too much stress, fear of speaking up. If people don't feel they can communicate effectively to others, then they end up bottling it all up, and then they get stressed, and then they explode. Let me not explode literally, because that'd be horrible. But like, if you've got a relationship with a partner or a friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, whatever it is, sometimes you have huge arguments, and often those arguments are over a trigger thing, something tiny that doesn't really matter. But in this context, it does. Why is that? Well, it's very simple. When you have an argument with somebody and it's unresolved, it might be small, it might be tiny, just like this little peg, right? And then you've got another argument that's like this hairscarf, and it goes on top of it. And then another argument that's like this mobile phone on top of it. It's like that scene from The Jerk where he says, "These things belong to me," as he gets kicked out of the house. If you see The Jerk, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of funny. If you haven't seen The Jerk, it sounds kind of weird. But the point is, all these little things stack up. So if they don't get resolved, they're really big. And what happens is when you have another argument on top of it, it's just like the straw that broke the camel's back. Snap! Boom, 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 boom. For all this, it becomes a huge argument because you didn't resolve the problems in the first place. That's why it's important to have that relationship with your staff so they can be honest, they can tell you and let steam off, and you can tell them the same and let steam off. So you go back home feeling perfectly good. So when you go home, you're not taking your stress with you. You spend time with your family. They can recharge your batteries, and you come back to work buzzing. Here's a true story. I don't know if I've told you this before, but it's utterly ridiculous. I'm not going to say which shop it was I worked for. When I was a student, I got a job working part-time in a shop. And it was the very famous chemists from the UK. I'm not going to say any more. Nice people, enjoyed working there. But I dropped out of university and decided that I would go to work full time, certainly over the summer holidays, in this place. So I got a full time job. They offered it to me, and I beat all the candidates who were pitching for it as well. And then after about 2, 3 weeks, I got pulled into the office of the HR manager. So she pulls me in one morning. David, I need to talk to you. Now, nobody calls me David, apart from my mum. I'm Dave. If you looked up David Crane, you get the guy who wrote Friends and the guy in the computer games in the 90s. But Dave Crane's mine, mostly mine. So she sat me down in the office and said, David, I have reason to believe that you're taking drugs. Oh, what? She said, I have reason to believe that you're taking drugs. This is a conversation with many members of staff who come to talk to me about you. And I want to be able to sit you down and find out what's going on. I said, I don't take drugs. I said, what are you on about? I said, what's your criteria for saying I'm taking drugs? And she said, people have noticed that when you come in first thing in the morning, you say hello to everybody and you're really happy to be at work. And we're trying to work out why. Think about that. So therefore, the only answer is you must be taking drugs to come and work in this place. It wasn't. I didn't take anything. Nothing. I was really enthusiastic because I only do stuff I want to do with the people that I want to work with. So at the end of the conversation, she felt really stupid because she'd just embarrassed herself by asking me a lot of questions that had nothing to do with my real life at all. And I thought, I don't want to work here. If people don't get that happiness can be built in because you're doing something that you really enjoy, or you're doing something that you might not love, but what you do find important is the ability to bring your A game to it regardless to make everyone else have a great time too, then I don't want to be spending time with those people. So shortly after I resigned, I got a job in a different place and I was much, much happier. So it kind of worked out really well, to be honest with you. And also, when I look back at stuff happened in the past and I can lead to where I am right now, I'm not going to change a single thing. If I changed anything and did this instead of that, then I might not be talking to you right now. Things might have changed dramatically, and so I love what I do. So that's my thoughts on it. I hope you feel the same way about your life as well. All right, next thing is this. So fear of speaking up and your ability to actually share stuff with people is important. Next, lack of team cohesion. Now, when people aren't happy, we're not motivated, they don't feel that they're together. And so sometimes what happens with that, and it becomes really difficult to deal with, is they just take it out on each other, but not in front of you if you're the boss. So you're wondering, why doesn't your team gel? Maybe they look great in front of you, but somehow it's just not fitting together. Often people don't have the tools to be able to work out and resolve conflicts with their staff or their colleagues. Sometimes not empowered to do it. Sometimes they'll leave it to the boss. In fact, in most cases, the boss should notice it and do something about it. If you're really busy, like doing stuff that just takes up most of your time, or in your different office, you don't see those things going on. So it's really important to be able to understand, to know what's going on. And as those things are doing it, then you can bring your team together. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it becomes silos, and they're impossible or almost impossible to break down without doing some damage to people's egos. And I'm not adverse to that, but sometimes some people can't take it and they leave, and they're good people as well. Number 10, no sense of purpose. My work feels meaningless. Create feedback, gamify the job, give them ways of seeing that their contribution makes a big difference. If they don't feel that, then they're going to continue down this. But here's what the real problem is here. If they don't feel wanted, don't feel a sense of purpose, don't feel they're contributing, most times they won't say anything to you. They'll just feel that you don't care. So what's the point? If you don't care, if you don't notice it, and your job is to notice and manage my happiness at work, then I don't see the point in sharing it with you. Especially if you go into a kind of business where, and it's true for many places that's still old school. So often in family businesses, the decision makers own the company as well as the staff, effectively. And so they know what's better for everybody. So they tell you this is the way it should be. I know because I've been there, instead of asking you what you really need. And sometimes those little tweaks can make a difference because you feel cherished, you feel important, you feel that somebody wants you to be there. Even as an employee, getting paid a lot of money, you still want to know that they value who you are. Because at times like this, otherwise, they can go and get somebody else. And they may well do it behind your back. So if they're keeping a constant conversation with you to let you know that you're valid, then you know you're all right, or at least you're going to see the warning signs before anything bad would happen and come along. So sense of purpose is really vital, really important. And as a communicator, there's lots of touch points where you can make that big difference. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm going to save it for another session. I'll just quickly go through. Look. Can you see this? Okay, I'll do it a little bit. These are the skills that you need to have to be able to be really effective as a communicator. And as a teacher of people, as a member of staff, or as a boss, your ability to talk to people and communicate makes a huge difference. So, talking to individuals matters. They've got to feel that you're talking to them. Writing stuff down so it's not flippant or slang, so they feel that you are taking the time because they're worth it. Conflict resolution, difficult conversations, that's another thing we'll look at in the future, actually. Conflict resolution is a really important one. Team communications and motivation. If they don't feel part of a team, then why are they at work? Why are they working really hard for you? Why not just pay them separately? Negotiation and influence. Do they feel that when they talk about something, they share that with other people, that it actually makes a difference, or they're just talking on their own? If they don't feel that they're having an impact, they're going to get worse and worse and worse and say the worst things to anybody who's going to listen. And that's when the damage always gets done. Okay, next up is crisis and change communication. Things change. Every company is upgrading, learning new skills, doing amazing new stuff. So as you're doing that, let that sound out there. Let your staff talk about it. Not that you give away all your secrets, but what it does, it allows you to feel that you are making a difference and other people can see it as well. If a crisis comes along, something really hard for you to deal with, if you've already got a really good relationship as a communicator, then it means that you can share people the ideas of what's going on and their judgment will be at a minimum. Even if you're telling little slight lies, they forgive you and they like you, so they'll make the effort to make sure that it's okay. And you'd be surprised how many people come out the woodwork, I was going to say closet then, just to help. All right, next is this. Cross-departmental and cross-functional communication, the ability to communicate with other people who are in your organization, but maybe not even in your office. Now, if you look at the difference between salespeople, marketing people, the people on the ground who are doing stuff, and the leaders, everyone's a different creature, even if you've got the same logo. So it's really important to be able to talk amongst each other and feel valued and feel valid. Feel that you care about them and they care about you. And the skills to be able to do it. Active listening makes a huge difference. Talking about stuff that they want to talk about makes a huge difference. Knowing what they're going to be not going through as challenges makes a big difference. So even if you don't know the answer yourself to what goes on, you know somebody who can help. All those things make a big difference, plus more. All right, next up this list is this: presentation skills, your ability to talk one-to-one with somebody. Now, most people can manage a one-to-one, it's not too daunting, but add another couple of people, it could be difficult. But sometimes I've had some senior managers going in to see the owner of a company is really daunting, because another owner might turn around and just say, right, I don't like you now, I'm going to get rid of you. So it's a double-edged sword. I know you can do it. It's just that sometimes it's a little bit more challenging than you would want. And small groups is the same thing as well. Next up is this: deal with difficult conversations. Everybody has to deal with this. Doesn't matter what's going on. At some point, you've got to be able to spell things out for people. It's difficult, but you can do it. And you should do it. And you have to do it. All right. Next up is this: cultural sensitivity and inclusion. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are from, and what you do. You want to feel like you're part of an organization. Great leaders, great communicators, massively inclusive. Everybody they see in a room either gets spoken to or gets a smile or something encourage them to make them feel that they're actually valid. Does that make sense? Good. All right, next up is this. Problem solving, decision making, communication, your ability to be a leader often means that you've got to be transparent as you share ideas about what to do next, but you also got to have the charisma to sometimes dig in deep and keep stuff to yourself with only enough for them to comment on. Not easy. It's a juggling act. But that thing, the ability to solve his problems and make those communications will make a huge difference throughout your entire career. Not just now, but something that wherever you work, working on your family as well. You know, communicating with your kids and getting the right answers for them and teaching them how to do it back means there's so much headache that disappears from everything. And then communication in hiring, onboarding, and letting go of people. Every single person who works for your organization represents your organization. Excuse me, it's been a long day. So when they represent your organization, it means that if anybody picks up the phone and calls them, whoever picks up the phone at your end is representing the organization. When people are out socially in a bar, restaurant, or going ice skating, if they bump into somebody who works for your company with a logo on or something like that, then they're going to instantly say that person is good or bad or ugly. So you want to make sure that whatever is being said is under your control. Best way to do it is really empower your team to be honest, to be transparent, and share their thoughts with people. Within a degree, can't give away state secrets, but certainly the ability to share with people is huge, huge. Just choosing the words you want to say and how that affects others too. And so that's it, apart from this one. Is it? There's no one. Oh, there's no one. Oh. How to network effectively. These are communication skills that everybody needs to have. How to go into a room full of strangers in grey suits, grey hair, grey beards. It's a grey party. Shouldn't really talk about grey beards. But the ability to network effectively, talking to them, getting the conversations going, and working out whether you want to continue our conversation and maybe do business as well. This is a really difficult thing that most people don't know how to do. They go onto a party or an event or a meetup, and they just look around. It's very transactional, see who you can connect to, and go. That's it. There's a lot more to it than that if you want to do it properly. And that final part leads us to this. When you can communicate effectively as a leader, you can increase your sales and close deals a lot better. Part of it is the conception that whenever you go in and talk to people about what it is that you're talking about, what it is you're selling, is the concept of what it is that they want. The ability to talk about it effectively so they go, oh, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Now, I have got a sales system for sharing that with you, which I'm not going to do right now. I might do in a future episode. If you want me to talk to your sales team and get them up on speed with this, it will blow you away. It's absolutely phenomenal. So that's it for today's sessions. What do you need to do next? A load of stuff, but I'm not going to go through this because it's too much work. What you've really got to do, actually, is contact me. And you're saying, Dave, how do I do that? Well, funny enough, here I am. Contact me through this QR code. Turbocharge your career challenge. There you go, you got QR code. I'm going to move on. If you've missed it, then you might have to instead pause it and go back to this video. Okay, so there's QR code. In fact, I've got another QR code I might share with you in a moment, depending on how you go. If you're very good, then you have a copy of this too. So the QR code matters because therefore you can join our WhatsApp group. We've got a big challenge coming up soon about how to dominate and get big impact on LinkedIn. If you fancy doing that, the groups are free, so you can join us there just by scanning that thing and going on there. Also, my own book, which is this one here. If it starts playing hard to get, the images that come out to play, that's really annoying. Let's try again like that. Hey, look at that. The Thought Leaders Playbook, which is available in Amazon now, and you may get an advanced copy if you go to www.speakonstage.com/playbook and put your details in. Then you might be all right. You love it. Here it is. If you haven't seen the book, by the way, where is it? I have a copy. He said, reading a studio. That's what it looks like. The Thought Leaders Playbook, and it's very thick. It's like a thick book. It's about 400 pages, which is of really, really good stuff about positioning yourself as a thought leader in your community and beyond. And that's almost bringing us to an end of play today. I hope you got some real value from it. Remember, at the end of the day, your relationship with your staff, with your subordinates, and your bosses is about relationships. It's really about communicating effectively. It's not just about the work that you do. Anyone can do good work, but usually that's a byproduct of a great relationship. So that's what you're going to focus on. That's your homework for today. Hope you feel very excited about it and know that you can do amazing things when you put your mind to it, as we've experienced together over the years. So I'm going to finish now. I'm going to go out and do some shopping, and then what we're going to do, I'm hoping that when I do some shopping, I can get myself some chocolate and go into a chocolate stupor. I'm kind of in the mood today. It's time to be contented. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just rewind the show and you've got all the details from there. That's it for today's show. Hope you got a lot of value out of it. And I look forward to catching you up next time on another episode of Speak on Stage. Thank you for tuning into another insightful episode of Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. We hope you found today's conversation inspiring and packed with valuable insights to help you to amplify your presence on stage too. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more aspiring speakers just like yourself. Remember, the stage is your platform to shine, and with the right tools and mindset, you can captivate any audience anywhere. So keep honing your craft, refining your message, and never shy away from the spotlight. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of public speaking and performance. Until then, keep speaking, keep shining, and keep making an impact. This is Dave Crane signing off. See you next time on Speak on Stage.